Nope, everything else I can wait and put in front of you.
Anyone else have something that you need to say?
Well, I don't need to say, but I'm going to say. And this is not against you, Flo, but you know, when I came on this board a little over 4 years ago, we had no attorneys at the table. And now we have 2 attorneys every night. And I just would like to understand why we have attorneys at this table and why we're spending the money, number one, and also what's the need? Because I don't get it. I mean, this is, you know, this board has been going like this for years and years and years, and now in the last 4 years, we've exponentially increased this number of attorneys at the table.
But before somebody answers that, can I just add, that's part of my concern too, this insulation that we keep putting on. Like, I agree with what she just said about the attorneys, but now, why do we have a police officer that's armed sitting right here next to the podium and up here? What caused that to change? It just seems like we keep distancing ourselves from the people we're representing.
I don't see either of those things as distancing ourselves from the people we're representing. I mean, they're all the people who were here were invited to come up as close as they could look.
Well, no, I was asking why are we doing it? I recognize that you clearly don't see that, but why is that happening? Or, you know, like she asked a question about why do we need 2 attorneys? I'm asking that and saying why do we need a police officer stationed right where he's sitting?
Right.
So now she's kind of puppet master here.
It's okay.
Oh, don't say puppet.
She's here. She's not.
May I speak to that?
That's the
with
point.
all respect of opinions, and so I see it as a positive. We're all doing that. I see it as a real positive. And let me also speak to the policeman, which I think is a legitimate question, again, and I appreciate the fact that you don't want to be separated from constituents. But, you know, with the level of violence that has happened in our society in general and the fact that we're a public thing, I am very grateful that we have a member of the police here and relatively close to us. So, I mean, I'm very appreciative of that he is here, you know, safeguarding me. So every night I go home to my kids. You know, that there's never a time when someone could, because this building is open. And I really appreciate your being here and safeguarding me, you know.
I'm not opposed to him being here. I'm just opposed that it has to be there. I mean, no one answers the question why that movement happened.
I asked him to come and sit closer to us.
And if he were back there, he couldn't protect us in the same way that he can right here.
And I would agree with what Catherine is saying. For me, Gary, I think that Officer Trost, known Gary for a long time, and I actually appreciate him moving up closer because I would agree with Catherine, if he's back there, and there have been other incidences on other boards throughout our state, if he's back there, he can't get to us fast enough, he can't protect us fast enough. And I actually thank you, Heather, for moving Officer Trost closer to us. I don't think it intimidates, you know, our audience. I think that you know, he has been here for the entire time I've been on the board almost. So I appreciate, you know, what you've said too, Catherine, because that's exactly how I was feeling, that his presence means a lot to me. I want to feel safe here. I want to be able to get home to my family the same way that you do.
But I think this goes back to this issue that we talked about earlier of cultural competence. Communities of color don't feel safe a lot of times with the police. For example, we have community council meetings at the Poplar Grove Community Council at the police department, and people won't come to there because it's at the police department. And so I'm talking about my community where I live. They've had bad experiences with the police. So if we're talking about you know, community involvement and engagement, I'm saying that's going to be a barrier to people in my neighborhood to come up here to speak. They're not going to do it if they're going to feel intimidated, but they're going to come to the podium and there's a police officer sitting right there. And I'm not opposed to him being here. I recognize the need for it. I just think the first 2 years I was on the board, he was sitting in the back. And from a tactical standpoint, I would think that whatever he could protect there, it could happen back there without the intimidation factor that he's going to bring to bear when people come.
But Michael, I see what you're saying. I know what you're saying, and I think that these are legitimate things to bring up. So I want to acknowledge that, and I think that it's okay to talk about them. But I guess what I would say is that if someone ran through that door and started shooting at us, and he were in the back of the room, his choice would be to shoot at them and towards us. you see what I mean? So I feel like it's a very logical place. Not that I'm expecting that to happen.
No.
But I mean, if we're going to have
Well,
an
that did
armed,
happen, I would get down,
if
and
we
you would get down, right? So
if we're having an armed police person here, we need him to be in the most effective place possible, right? And certainly it's not in that back corner.
Well, but I understand what Michael's saying, because I certainly have spoken about this with my students of color, and they all have had, they have been picked up and stopped by the police, whereas my students who are white have never been, or minimally. So I mean, I think that is a factor of our society. And so I think what Michael is expressing is a valid point. It certainly didn't come to my attention, to be quite honest, being a non-observant person, but I understand what you're saying. I mean, I think you both have good points, but I do understand.
Well, I think there's a way to strike a balance in it, but, you know,
Right, I agree.
Well, I want you to tell me if you think anyone is being prevented from coming or feeling, I mean, you sent me an email this morning in which you said hovering over the speaker's podium, and since I asked him to come here, we haven't had anyone speak to us. So if you feel like that people are being prevented from coming, please let me know. If there's an individual...
Well, I mean, you know, this will be on video. I'll see if there's people in the community that can come here and speak to that and you know, demonstrate or express those feelings, because that's where I go back to this cultural competence, that people that are Caucasian are not going to understand that, like she said. She knows as a teacher that happens. I know because in my neighborhood that's what happens. And so, you know, because, you know, the other thing, Heather, that doesn't make the papers, you know, is that there's constantly police chases going on in my neighborhood. SWAT team will be deployed. It doesn't make the papers. The roads get blocked off because they're chasing somebody, you know, and none of that makes the papers. And that's kind of, you know, where we, and then if you're walking down the street and you say, what's going on? It's shut the F up and keep, you know, it's like, wow, this is my neighborhood. I don't, you know, and I'm trying to get home. So I'm just saying that, you know, I don't see the need for it. I go to city council meetings, I go to legislature, and they're not standing right there between the elected body and the people.
I definitely take your point that you don't see the need for it. I hope you'll communicate if you feel like people are being prevented, or honestly, if they feel like they can't come. I have to also balance the safety concerns that we all the rest of us feel in the building.
But I still haven't heard what's the difference between him sitting there and back there.
I think
What was the
Catherine already
safety?
explained that.
Oh, so you think that somebody's going to come in here and shoot it? Sitting there is going to be better?
I think this is a better position for him.
Okay. What? I have a letter I want to pass out to you before we